Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. Hello and welcome back to the M Makes Money Show. I am so excited to be here and be joined by Helen M. Ryan. She is a woman that never gives up. She loves to try new things. She fails faster. She runs a marketing studio, is the author of 3 books, has a walking podcast, and her passions are traveling. She's a digital nomad, her cats, her kids, and chocolate. So, Helen, I know we're going to have such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you are someone so interesting. One of the things I love about running our digital businesses is the people that we get to connect to. And, I find social media so interesting because I just trust that the algorithm and our energies and such will all combine in a way that it shows me amazing women that need to be in my life. And you are definitely one of those. You've got such an interesting story. I feel like you've lived 20 lifetimes in one. So I would love for my listeners to just hear a little bit about that story. So if you wouldn't mind just diving right into it, I think that would be the best way for us to kick this off.
Sure. You want me to start like way back or start more of my adult life, or where should I start?
Okay. How about this? Since we like talking about things through the lens of money, talk to me about what money was like for you as a kid.
Well, my mother was a single mom. But she was also an alcoholic and had a mental illness. So money was scarce a lot of the times. She worked, but then for a long time she didn't work. And so I was just used to growing up without money. For me, it was like normal to not have money and to wear like the same clothes every day. And it wasn't important to me. But I remember I grew up in Norway, but I was here in the US for 6 months I digress now. Well, I went to high school for 6 months here and I wore the same pair of pants, jeans with tassels on the side. Don't ask me why I wore those. But then one day someone shouted at me like, change your pants. Because I wore the same pants almost every day because it didn't bother me because money wasn't important to me. And when there were times like I didn't have food, and that's been periodically throughout my life when there's been times I've been so broke I couldn't eat. And so that's why I can't fast, for example, because fasting reminds me of starving against my will, even if it would be with my will. You know what I mean? It's just, it puts me back into that time period. And it was just, so I was used to not having money. I started working babysitting when I was 12, and then I started working a cleaning job when I was like 15 or 16. And so I just always worked and just basically got by. I was never an extravagant spender. I'm not interested in material things. I would watch sometimes where people in my family, like someone would like get abused in a way, like spanked or whatever. And then like later on, they like their parent would buy them something, to make up for it. So I had this bad feeling sometimes about money. It's like money is like an apology that shouldn't have been, and it was like, I felt a lot of times that money was the root of all evil. And if I could survive without money, then, the happier. I thought the happier I would be,
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point. Like so many of our first experiences of money and how we feel about it, like are shaped by our childhood and by the adults around us, right? And how they behave with money and whether it's there or it's not there. And then there is this idea, right, that we can either chase after money and let it control us, or just decide that screw money, I don't need it. I'm going to be happy without it. I can be humble. I don't care about material things. And there's like this wholesale rejection of it. But both are sort of a trauma response. Like they're not coming from the most independent, sovereign place. right? It's either like, I'm going to rebel against you or I'm going to chase after you. Either way, it's not because, the adult healed version of me is choosing that. It's more because of the relationship that I had with you as a kid.
And what's interesting, what you said is like my ex-husband, we were together for 20 years. He also grew up without money. His mom was a single mom with 6 kids, but he's very much, he likes material things, and that's very important to him. So 2 people who grew up without money have 2 completely different, outlooks. So you can imagine that was fun. Like if you wanted to buy something, I'm like, no, we don't need that.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit more difficult because I was always putting the brakes on the spending.
Yeah. I think that often happens in relationships where it's like one person's the gas and one person's the brakes. And like, the person who's the brakes, so to speak, is kind of attracted to the spontaneity and the free-willed willingness to spend and just live life of the partner. And the other partner is attracted to the stability and the safety and the one that's the brakes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So there was no money growing up. It sounds like a bit of a tumultuous childhood. And so when you kind of like just, I don't know, did you have a point where you decided what you wanted to do with your life, and was money in any way a part of that equation?
No, I fell into everything. I started doing graphic design when I was probably about 20, 21. And I just kind of fell into that, and turns out I was good at it. And so I just did it, and then I started my own business, and then I got pregnant with my son. So I wanted to stay at home and run my business, which was a struggle. It was hard because of the whole money situation. And, it's Southern California is very expensive. And so I just kind of fell into web development and marketing, many years ago. And I've just been improving my skills since then. But again, money wasn't really important to me because I would prefer to travel or something rather than spend a lot of money, on where I'm living. And I did travel for a while as digital nomad, which was really fun.
Yeah, I love that. And, again, like, thank God for the internet.
Yes.
That now we can do that. We can work from anywhere, right? We can create these businesses out of thin air. Did you find that in your work, like kind of agency work, that your feeling about like yourself or your worthiness, or your feeling about money and your ability to charge prices and receive money for something, tell me how that felt for you and how that played out through your business.
I think it's been like a little bit of a challenge. A lot of my clients, even some of the ones I have now, I just double my rate for new clients because of my background and because of all my skills. But I've had clients for years and years and years and years, and they're always like, oh, be gentle on me. Oh, don't charge me so much. Oh, what is this on the invoice? And I'm charging them. I'm charging my old clients I've had for well over 10 years, less than my handyman charges me to hang things on the wall. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you've gotten this same price and discount for like 12, 13 years. And then I get, when they start nickel and diming me to death, then I get, resentful, because it's like, well, I made you so much money and I should be able to make a living without you always nickel and diming me to death. When I work for bigger companies, I work for a big food conglomerate as one of my clients, and they paid me a lot of money. They never questioned anything. They were like, it was a whole different environment than working with the smaller businesses who want to, control everything. And I keep costs low with my clients in general. I always recommend things that are within budgets for them. But yeah, I've always charged too little. And so just recently I've just doubled my rates, and I'm just going on from there.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I think I think particularly for women entrepreneurs, we often take our own feelings about our own worthiness or lack thereof, and we project it into our business and into our client relationships and into our pricing. And I'm glad that you brought up about feeling resentful, because that is something that happens when we don't have boundaries, when we're not the first ones to value ourselves and our time and have boundaries for, the way that we interact with our clients, then ultimately we get resentful of our clients. But it's like, well, we were an energetic match for that. There's a reason that they treat us this way, and it's because that's how we've decided that we're willing to be treated, right? So it's like, people don't go to their mortgage company and say like, oh, go easy on me this month. They say it to you because they think that you'll actually alter your business practices for them, and probably you have.
I have in the past, because I'm a bleeding heart. Like if someone needs help, I'm like, oh, let me help you all the time. And, it is, I see everybody. I've been in the past, I've been really working on changing it. I see all my clients as a lens through my life and my experience, and having struggled for so long as a single mom. I mean, now my business is pretty successful, but I see everybody through that lens of people can't affording things. And that is not always the case. Like if I have a client who nickel and dimes me to death, and yet they spend money on an extravagant trip or extravagant car. And I'm like, well, you can afford that, but you can't afford to pay for the thing that actually helps your business grow,
Yeah.
Which is me.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So I love that you're seeing it through the lens of like, okay, where can I clean up something energetically? Right. Because it is true. Like we're available for a certain type of client. And I know one of my businesses is that I'm a co-founder and help operate an agency, and we help brands sell more on Amazon. And the same kind of deal where, we used to attract a lot of owner operator types, and there was so much scarcity mindset that it was really difficult for us to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish with them. It was like, we'd see this incredible opportunity, but they were already pulling the plug, or thinking about pulling the plug, or energetically pulling the plug before they could have the success, because they just didn't have the stomach to invest what was needed to make it happen. And now that we work with, brands that are anywhere from, 10 million to several hundred million, it's just such a different mindset. It's like, well, yeah, of course we're going to spend this money. Of course we're going to work with an agency to help us. And we've got somebody on our team that will work with you directly. And, I always have a heart for the little guys. And at the same time, it's really tough. It's really tough because a lot of the little guys, they're just not yet ready.
Right.
So
yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about failure, because that's something that you brought up, that you like to fail faster. And I love this topic. So I think it's not talked about enough. And there's people that feel like failure is the opposite of success. And I don't really look at it that way in entrepreneurship, but I really would like to hear what your take is on failure.
Well, I look at it, like, I don't know if they're mazes or like those glass houses that you walk in, and then you walk this direction and you bump into that wall, that doesn't work. So then you go this path and that doesn't work. And then finally you find the right path out. And that's kind of what I look at it. I read years and years ago, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I didn't really take that much away from it except fail faster. And that's true, because the more you do something, the more times you fail at something, eventually you're going to succeed with it. You just have to figure out what didn't work to find out what works. And so I try new things, and I'll do more things. And like, I don't like really being on camera, but I'm doing more of these, although we're just talking to each other, but I've done different things. I've done YouTube lives that I'm not comfortable with, because I'll just fail faster. I'll do more of it. I'll do more and more and more of it until it's a success, until I can feel really comfortable with it. And that's what I do with my business. I try things that didn't work. Try that didn't work. Okay, this is working.
Yeah. So talk to me about some of the failures that have been present on your path to success.
I've tried different. So my main business is, having like a marketing communications type little tiny studio. And now my son is working for me. He's grown. He's 25. He's not 12. He does now the web development part, because I'm 56 years old. I'm tired. It was hard always to be a woman in a man's world, because web development was always a man's world. So he's doing development. I'm doing the other parts of the business and the customer interaction. But some side hustles that I've had in the past, for example, I started a line of motivational t-shirts years ago, I've had many side hustles. Years ago, I lost over 80 pounds. And then so I became a personal trainer on the side as a side hustle, spinning instructor as a side hustle. And then I wrote three books now on, subject of healthy weight loss and eating chocolate while you're doing it and things like that. So I decided to come out with a line of t-shirts, actually two line of t-shirts that were for like motivation for like health and fitness, and people in my spin class bought it. And I tried to sell it, but it's really hard when you don't have a marketing budget to try to sell, like, and especially apparel. Like I had a bunch of them printed, and with t-shirts, you have to print all different sizes. You have to create different sizes. So you have that stock. And then if they don't sell, then you're stuck with t-shirts. So that didn't work too well. Then later, I also tried a line of motivational bracelets with my slogan for my book, Tomorrow Starts Today. And again, like my spinners and my friends bought it, but I didn't have any success marketing it outside because I didn't have the money for proper marketing. Yeah, I could do the website and all of that, but still, it's still hard to be heard through all the noise of what's out there. So those were two of my bigger failures, not in terms of money, but in terms of, I didn't make much money on it, but in terms of just time and investment and thought. And I learned later on that apparel like that is really hard to break into. And it's really hard to do it on your own unless you have backers and things like that. So those were two of my big failures in terms of something I wanted to accomplish and I didn't.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that so openly. And I totally get it with between my coaching that I do for women entrepreneurs and the Amazon sales agency. It's like all sales still comes down to traffic and conversions.
Yeah.
And it's like, no matter how we try to complicate things, it always still comes back to the fundamentals. And it's like, you can have a great product. Like I'm sure all of those products were incredible and they probably converted really well. You just didn't have an audience already built or an easy means to get a ton of traffic to them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's often the same thing when I'm working with women service providers that, are wanting to grow their coaching practice. And it's like, they've got an incredible offer, an amazing background. They're really good at what they do. And it's the audience building because they need more traffic. They just need more eyeballs on what they're doing. They need to build more relationships, connections, conversations, which ultimately will result in a certain percentage of those people hiring them as a client. So I love that you share that because I think, those are lessons that most people learn in one way or another, but they don't always extract the right lesson from it.
Yeah.
Right. Often it's like, oh, well, I guess I just shouldn't do apparel, or I just shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't do that. And it's like, well, maybe, but also are we possibly just missing the point, which is focus on growing your audience.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Without an audience.
If you had 100,000 followers on Instagram, you'd have sold all your books.
Yeah.
You'd have sold all your t-shirts. You'd have sold all your bracelets, right? Because they sold with the women in your spin club, the women that knew you and knew your story, they sold. You just needed more women like that knew you and knew your story.
Yeah. And that's the problem for a lot of businesses is getting the audience and coaching and course creation. Like last year, another failure kind of, but I spent a lot of money on like courses and some coaching last year. And of course the bottleneck was again, me trying to be successful with it. But I learned what I was trying to do is I didn't have anything to sell. Because I was trying to break out more into more digital type, not with design, but with selling courses and things like that. And so I was trying to build an audience, and I went about it the wrong way. Like I do digital marketing, but I do public relations, things like that for clients and for myself. But I don't like to hang out on social media. It drives me nuts. So I didn't build a big enough audience, for that. And I didn't really have my eyes set on what is it I'm trying to not quote unquote sell, but I had a program that could help people. And I didn't know how to get enough people, enough followers. So that was another thing that I spent too much money on courses and everything, thinking that would magically fix everything, when it did not.
Right.
So I learned that I have to actually, buckle down. I have to figure out what I want to do, and I have to create something that people want.
Yeah. Yeah. And building these relationships, like you're here on my show. I'm sure you're doing other podcasts as well. And so that's, and more people know about you. The more people that know about you, the more, you're starting to build that audience that at some point will want to buy something.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the author piece of your story, because it's no small feat to write a book, and you've done it multiple times, and it sounds like maybe on a variety of topics as well. What made you feel drawn to becoming an author?
Well, I started to write my first book when I was 9, and it was a piece of crap. I didn't get that far. I maybe wrote like 4 or 5 chapters, and I didn't know better. I was a 9 years old, but I always wanted to be an author. And so, but I put all that on hold because I had my business, I had my life in the business, and then I had kids. Excuse me, my voice is like, it's a morning voice right now. And then I just, I thought, well, I don't know. I don't think I can write. So I kind of brushed that whole thing off. Yet that was the thing that had been part of me for my whole life. And that dream, it's kind of like if you have a dream your whole life, but you don't actually go for that dream, you can't fail at that dream because you didn't try and fail. So yeah. In the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I want to be an author, but, I just, because I didn't try, I couldn't fail at it. Because if I failed at it, that was like my whole inside identity. And so I didn't want to lose that part of me, because what else? That was my dream. Like, I didn't have any other dreams. So like, what else? If I didn't do it, then I would, then I'd be safe because I was an author who hadn't written a book. But now I see I forgot the question.
Well, I was asking you what drew you to become an author.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like it's always been a dream, even as a child.
Yeah, it always was. And then after I lost weight and I became a certified personal trainer and spinning instructor, as my side hustles, I thought, let me write a book for people who don't like all the rules and who can't like eat low, like no carbs and everything. Let me write a book, because I lost over 80 pounds in 10 months, and I still ate chocolate. I still like lived a life. And so I thought, well, it's not really the book I want to write, but it's a book. And if it can help people. So I wrote a very simple, easy to follow book. That was my first one. And it was just, helping people and telling them that, they're not wrong, they're not bad. And this is how you can do it. And stop beating yourself up for your perceived failures. And so that actually went pretty well. I was making some money on it for a long time every month. So that was really cool. And then
did you self-publish, or did you work with a publisher?
I self-published. And I would get emails from people like, this book has changed my life. Now, I don't know if now it's changed their life. Now it's been years, but it was so good to just know that strangers, your friends and family are always going to pat you on the back. But when strangers like reach out to you and say, this was amazing, this really helped me, that to me, that was the whole point of writing the book, is to reach more people other than like my training clients. And then I did a very short book afterwards, just like a little motivational book with like the concepts from the first book, like a pocket guide that people could just take with them. And the third one is actually coming out now. And it's health, wellness, weight loss, but it's more of musing. So it's a collection of like just different kinds of musings on it. But this is the last book I'm doing on this. I'm moving more towards, I've been doing marketing and design and PRs, since I was in my early 20s. So it's time for me to move forward with that, I think.
Do you feel like you're getting braver with each book? Like, are you more willing to share your truth and really kind of get to the heart of the little girl inside of you that always wanted to be an author? Like, what did she want to say?
I think with this latest book, in the forward, or the introduction, I should say, I'm really giving more details about my life. I've always kept everything about my previous life, my childhood, everything private, but I'm finding that people want to know, because, you look on Instagram, you look on Facebook, everybody's lives look so great. Everybody's lives look so perfect. You don't know what they've been through and where they're from. And for them to be able to, now I'm starting to share more, because I realize that it's helping people understand that they can overcome trauma. They can overcome their past, and they can move forward. And so I'm putting that more in this book. But hopefully my next book actually will be a travel book about my days as a digital nomad, and then hopefully go more towards business, but motivating people. That's what I like to do. Because it's hard, no matter what we're doing, whether it's losing weight or getting fit or building a business, it's hard to stay motivated.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think, writing a book is something that's like on so many people's bucket list, and so few people do it. So I just honor your courage and commitment to actually do it and get out there and serve people. So I'm curious, is one of, like, based on our discussion thus far, I wonder if there's a little feeling around that it's hard to make money, or that if you want to make more money, you have to work harder for it. Do you think that's been like a present theme in your life?
Well, I work really hard. I work a lot of hours because I do my own things. I'm not afraid of hard work. For me, it's more of asking people for money is still hard, considering that I have so many years of experience, and I'm still not asking the amount of money that I should be asking. Now I am with my new clients. I think I'm stuck there a lot, just always doing favors and really asking people. My aunt told me, and you've heard this before, that my grandfather always said, my grandfather ran several businesses and he was very successful. He always told her, if someone doesn't have a shirt, you have two shirts, you give them one shirt. If you only have one shirt, you keep your shirt. But I'm the kind of person of, here, let me give you my shirt. I'll figure out what to do without a shirt, because I'm always looking, I always like challenges too, but sometimes it gets hard when you face those challenges all the time. But I have to learn that, I need to keep a shirt for myself. And that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah. I love that you shared that, because like for women, there's so much good girl coding. There's so much martyrdom in motherhood and, and just being female, right? Like there's kind of this like servitude that you should be the one taking care of everyone else. And if it's at your own expense, then you just get pats on the back for that. But pats on the back don't necessarily make us feel fulfilled in life. And that whole phrase of, you can't give from an empty cup, or you can't pour from an empty cup, I think is very valid. And as women, the better we take care of ourselves, actually, the better we can take care of everyone around us. And again, that shows up in our business too. And so as you clean up those boundaries, as you start stepping into higher pricing, it's like, you're just going to find the clients that like feel really, really good at that pricing and, are so grateful for your work.
And the ones who are motivated.
Test your boundaries less.
And people like who pay more they're more ready to make change. They're more ready to listen. They're more ready to take those steps. And so I always want to help people, who are starting and struggling, but I want to do that more with like courses, like lower cost courses, or things that are maybe a group that's affordable, but then really work with people who really want to go to the next level and who want me to help them, for example, get noticed, get in the media, who want to learn also how to do stuff themselves.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Like there's a resource or, something for everyone at every level. And I'm so grateful for YouTube and Google and how much access to information we have now, because it doesn't matter if you can't pay $1. Like you can get so much information for free to get you started on your way. And then when you're ready to pay for an expert to help you or hold your hand or do it for you, then that's available to you as well.
Somebody asked me, like, what do I think of Canva? Now I use Adobe Creative Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. I've been doing that for years. I was like, yes, for sure, do it. Because I've used Canva for social media. Graphics is so easy to resize. I'm like, you don't have to invest the time and energy in Adobe Creative Suite. Where if Canva is what you can afford, Canva is better than nothing. Absolutely. There's something for everyone in every stage.
Yes. Amen. As a Canva user over here, not because of price, but it's just like, I just want something that's easy, that can do the basics, because beyond that, I need to just hire someone. I'm not going to invest the time to learn it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So I'm curious, with the stage that you're at in your business now, how much are you making? And do you have any little financial goal that you'd like to share with us that you're working toward?
Well, my new client rate is for design and marketing is $95 an hour. Some of my old clients are still on $40 an hour. That's my nonprofit price. I do work for nonprofits because I know that they struggle. And these nonprofits that I do work with, I've done free work for nonprofits as well and volunteer, because it's really important to me that they get help. And I have no problem working for free or low cost for nonprofits. But for-profit companies, like my smaller clients, they need to pay more than $40 an hour when my handyman charges me $60, And so it's all my experience. And I do a lot of consulting with them. So I'm going to start having them book appointments now, like the ones who call me and message me every 5 minutes for something that's not paid. They can book on Calendly and they can prepay for series. I mean, I want to go to more packages, but really what I want to do is do master classes, paid master classes and trainings, because I think that especially for that starting out to middle ground, people like public relations is easily $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Well, not everybody can afford that. So I can teach them how to do it themselves. It's not that hard. It just requires elbow grease, like social media and everything else. And I want to reach more people and not just do the done for you. I want to teach them how to do it themselves and then reserve the done for you for my other clients who, like my new clients who are paying more for that work.
Yeah. I love that. And, for everyone listening, Helen's not wrong. Like I hired, the first PR person I hired was $4,000 a month, and I had to commit to 6 months. And that was at least 6 years ago. Yeah. So, it's a very significant financial commitment. And you don't really know what you're going to get out of it. Yeah. Which can be hard on both sides of things, right? Because as a client, I wanted to sort of have an idea of how much my sales would grow from PR. And my PR person was like, yeah, I can't answer that question for you.
No, you can't, because you can't guarantee they're going to be picked up. Or like I've noticed some people have been paying for PR. I mean, there are some very good PR people and agencies out there. I'm not a PR agency. I do it as part of my marketing, but I've been in Mashable. I've been in Shape Online. I've been in Very Well Fit, Huffington Post. I've been in all these publications, so I know how to do it. But it's just getting it out there, getting it done, and then just doing the best you can, researching researching writers and emailing them. But it's hard. You can't predict. If you are a PR agency, you can't predict how many pickups you're going to get. You can guess, but there's no guarantee. Just like with social media, are you going to go viral? Maybe, maybe not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, we got the most PR, for our baby clothing company. And so, we were featured in People magazine multiple times. We had celebrities share pictures of their kids wearing our stuff. And a lot of times it didn't really result in any sales. Yeah. Probably our biggest sales lift ever was like a BuzzFeed article. And it had a link directly to our product on Amazon. And we were like, why are our sales going crazy? I'll never forget. We were in Hawaii on vacation with some friends and we're like checking our sales, like something must be going on. And then we found out that we were in BuzzFeed. But yeah. And it's interesting because this actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier, which is visibility. And it's like just trusting that there are so many things that are building your audience, and some of them are going to turn into sales right away and some of them aren't. Yeah. And who the heck knows whether they will or they won't, but it's like just trusting that with each thing you put out there that like it is building momentum.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really like about doing PR and things like that are the backlinks back to your website and high domain authority backlinks. It'll help with search engines, but getting a link to your site is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably why people would hire someone like you, right? Because you're helping to shape the type of media that they're getting. So I love the idea of doing master classes and making that more, your knowledge more accessible to other people.
I think that's my thing. I like to help people, and the more people, the better. But I do have to, keep some high ticket clients, but I really like to work with people who not so much individual, but teaching them how they can, do their own fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, as you and I were talking before we started recording this, and you were also just talking about, just seeing people in other countries, right, that have nothing, but they're so happy, and what an impression that made on you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I traveled for quite a while as a digital nomad. I've gone without my kids. And then when my daughter graduated high school, my youngest, I took them and we traveled for a while. Then after they went back, I went ahead and traveled on my own as well. It was really freeing. We put everything in storage. I could only take stuff that was, fit in my backpack or in my suitcase, depending on what I had at the time. And so it was freeing for me to, if I wanted to buy something new, something else had to go. And it's like, it's amazing that you can survive on so little. But I've traveled to some Cambodia, Bosnia, aside from all the other places that are more touristy, but just the kindest people in Thailand, and they don't have much, and they're always happy, and they're always willing, to help you. I mean, I've had people who don't have any money offer, here, you want this, and I'm like, no, but thank you. They're just so kind, and they're just happy, and their kids run the family business with them. They start when they're young, and it's focused on family, and they don't care about material things, and it's really nice and really just amazing that these people are just so happy with it, because here we're so materialistic. I mean, there's a good balance. Like, I like air conditioning. So when I travel, I do stay in Airbnb with air conditioning, or a place with air conditioning. So that is my, my guilty pleasure. But it's just amazing that I've met so many just super kind people who are just happy with everything they with whatever little that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Happiness is an inside job, that's for sure. And I've had similar experiences, traveling in India and just, seeing women by the side of the road and making cow pie patties that would then be burned to, cook the food and whatever. And it's like that, it's such a humble way of living. But, I've learned the hard way that all of the financial goals don't make you feel safe. They don't make you feel happy. They don't make you feel successful. They don't make you feel worthy. All of that needs to be done on the inside.
Yeah.
But then I've also experienced the fact that once you do all of that on the inside and then you add money to your situation, life does get a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the both and for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been such a fun discussion, and I would love for you to share the places that you hang out. I know you said you don't like social media, but where, I don't know, are you reluctantly there? Where can people follow you? And
well, it's not that I don't like it. I have so much to do. It's like, oh, I know I have to put something on social media. I'm on Instagram at Real Helen M. Ryan. And I do have my travel Instagram that I haven't updated because I've been traveling, which is Midlife Crisis Traveler with 2 L's. If somebody wants to see some of the pictures and the amazing places, budget places that I've been. I have my walking podcast, which is walkingandtalking.show. And I have a blog, but it's not, it's a healthy lifestyle weight loss blog, Grow Weight Loss. But I just feel like, I love to connect with people, and I love to hear what other people, what their experience is. That's the part I like about social media. I love Facebook groups. I'm on Facebook a lot. Instagram is just harder because I can't feel that same connection as I can on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting how we all have our little places on the internet that feel cozy, and then the other places that don't feel good at all. So we'll make sure to drop some of those links in the show notes so that people can stay connected with you as you publish your next book, as you start traveling again, as you start launching your master classes and all of the things. So Helen, thank you so much for joining. Would you like to leave any final words of wisdom with our audience?
I think that just don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid if something, feels like a failure, and just learn from it. Because the more I've lost everything several times, and the more times you lose and you rebuild, you realize that you're so strong inside. And it doesn't, if you only live like you get a paycheck, if something happens to your job, you're lost. But when you create your own business, or you know how to rebuild, then you're a lot more secure, because you know that even if you lose everything tomorrow, you can rebuild it again.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you listening. And I'll see you again soon on another episode. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way we think, feel, and talk about money will change the world. I truly believe that. It starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested to help this show reach a bigger audience each week. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you want more connection, more M Makes Money style riffs, and a safe place on the internet to talk about money, jump into my free Facebook group, The Money Club. It's linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, happiness, and boatloads of money.